Welcome to Chapter 11. This should be the final week of your courses. I want to thank everyone for your suggestions and comments and bearing with me as I do the videos for the first time ever. Hopefully I can make them better for future classes, but I do appreciate you being patient with these videos, and I hope that you are gaining information from the course. So we're going to continue on with Chapter 11. Hopefully you've read through your book, your chapter book, and also printed your PowerPoint presentations so you'll be able to follow along. In Chapter 11, we discuss public goods and common resources. Chapter 11 is the second chapter in a three-chapter series that talks about the public sector. If you remember, we shifted from macro to micro as we moved into these three chapters. Remember in Chapter 10, we discussed externalities. We're going to talk a little bit more about that today as we go forward. So in this chapter, we will discuss public goods and common resources, which are goods that is difficult to charge a price to a user. Such things as parks, ponds, beaches, other public and private works as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about those. Then we will wrap up in Chapter 12 and Chapter 13, addressing the tax system and also monopolies. And that will wrap us up for our work. So what are the different kinds of goods? When classifying types of goods in the economy, two characteristics should always be examined: excludability and also consumption rivalry. So let's look at how the book defines excludability. It's the property of a good whereby a person can be prevented from using it. So excludability, the property of a good whereby a person can be prevented from using it. So what's the definition of a rivalry in consumption? It's the property of a good whereby one person diminishes the other person's use. So it's the property of a good whereby one person's use diminishes the other person's use. Using these two characteristics, goods can be divided into four categories: private goods, public goods, common resources, club goods. So let's first talk about private goods. Private goods are goods that are both excludable and rival in consumption. Public goods are goods that are neither excludable nor rival in consumption. Common resource goods are goods that are rival in consumption but not excludable. So club goods are goods that are excludable but not rival in consumption. So you can see where we're going here. We're covering all angles of it. The boundary between the categories is sometimes unclear. Whether goods are excludable of rival in consumption is neither it can be a matter of a degree. It can be a small percentage off. Public and common resources each will create externalities because they have value, yet they have no price because they are not sold in the marketplace. These externalities effects imply that the market outcomes will be inefficient or absent of government involvement in private resolutions. So, government's not involved, private's not involved, these externalities will have to still be taking place. Okay, so now let's talk about public goods first. For example, a fireworks display. It's not excludable because it would not nearly be impossible to keep others from viewing it. And it's not rival in consumption because one person's enjoyment does not prelude others from enjoying it as well. We have to mention what is the term free riders. You've heard of that. Not everybody calls it that, but you know what the term means. The definition in the book is a person who receives the benefit of a good but avoids paying for it. It would be difficult to sell tickets to a fireworks show because it's not excludable. Thus, some individuals would benefit from the show without even paying for it. More than likely, a private individual or firm would not produce the fireworks show because it would not be profitable. It would be a loss to them. If the social value of the fireworks show is greater than the cost of producing it, it would be efficient for the fireworks show to be produced. So, a lot of times local governments can sponsor the show and charge each of its citizens a part of the cost by using some type of form of tax. So if the government or local city or county thinks, well, if we do a fireworks show, people will drive in, people may attend another event where they do buy tickets to, and that does generate revenue. People may eat food, may stop to get gas, may stop at the restaurants. So it could generate enough tax revenue that ordinarily would not be there if people did not come to watch the fireworks, and so therefore would actually be profitable to the government. So If the tax is less than the value of the fireworks displayed to each individual, everyone is better off. Remember, we talked about principle number 7 back in chapter 1. If you see a pattern, we keep talking about the principles all the way through. Government can sometimes improve the market outcome. If you have the fireworks show, vendors will sell food, the ice cream truck will stop by, people will stop and eat in restaurants. If there's a baseball game before, people may buy tickets to the baseball game because they know there's a fireworks show afterwards. Gasoline could be purchased. All types of things could happen to help the individual vendors and the market, as well as the private market, but also benefit from being able to use taxes for something that you know that people in your community would enjoy. Okay, so let's look at some important public goods. In your PowerPoint presentation and in the book, it talks about national defense. We all know that our taxes go to support national defense and how important that is for us and what happens if we do not put those resources into national goods. Basic research, health research, any type of research that helps develop new technology and help us have a better welfare life and social life. And along with fighting poverty, in your book, it mentions welfare as in a benefit to help someone get on their feet. It also talks about SNAP programs for people who need help securing food for them and their family. All of those programs are set up to temporarily help someone who may have hit a hardship or may have a rough patch to be able to give them a hand up so that they can recover and become a productive member of society. So all those programs have good value in them, and plus if someone uses one of those programs and they're able to get their feet under them and be able to recover, get education or training that they need, then they are most likely or more likely to become a productive member of society and then therefore begin paying taxes and be able to contribute back to society and work through the marketplace. So let's look at one of the case studies that's in your PowerPoint presentation and is also in your book. It talks about lighthouses. You know, are lighthouses public goods? Lighthouses are used so that ships can mark a specific location and avoid treacherous waters and also avoid treacherous rocks or anything that may be in the water. The use of the lighthouse is both non-excludable and also non-rival in consumption. Thus, most lighthouses are provided by the government because there's not a lot of value in them currently, especially with all the technologies that ships have now. But if we go back to the 19th century, when we look at England, when most travel overseas was done, or only done through ships, the lighthouses were operated by public goods. There was an individual or a company or firm who actually owned the individual lighthouse. The owners of local ports would charge with a service, charge and have a service, that if they did not pay, if the ship owners did not pay, the owner would just simply turn the lights out and the person navigating the ship would not have those directions or those resources. So, and the ship would also avoid stopping in that port, therefore not spending money in that port. So it was kind of, you can see how the market would work through that. So let's talk about the cost-benefit analysis when we're looking at a public good. To decide whether or not something is a fund or should be funded by public good, the government must conduct a study that total benefits and the cost of the good. So if you're looking at the definition the book has for cost-benefit analysis, it's a study that compares the cost and the benefits to society of providing that public good. So is providing stop signs or safe roads or railroad gates at railroad crossings, is it worth what it would cost in taxes for the government to provide those things versus the safety of the public? This is very difficult to do because measuring how much an individual will value a specific good is problematic. Quantifying benefits is difficult when you're using the results of a questionnaire. Because most of the time, if it's a government type questionnaire, we have no value in it. They really don't have a lot of value into it. Respondents have less incentive to fill it out. This difficulty implies that the efficient supply of public goods is much more challenging than the efficiency supply of private goods. Because in private goods, buyers of the private good reveal that it's of value to the sellers and to the person in the marketplace. So one thing that you can look at too, not necessarily public goods, but I want to give this example. It's not in your book, and it's not in your PowerPoint example. But unfortunately, when car dealerships, which are for the most part are private goods, let's say they have a recall in a car. So they'll recall a switch or recall an ignition because that ignition and that switch is causing fire, cars are crashing, people being hurt or even killed. Research companies will actually use an economist or someone to make predictions or assumptions of how much it would cost to recall all those cars, to have those cars fixed, to have that ignition fixed that would not ever cause a fire, versus how many accidents, how many deaths, and what the payouts would be for those accidents and deaths. And then unfortunately, the company's going to look and see which one is the most profitable for their private company to make. Would we pay out more because of deaths and car crashes, or do we spend millions and millions more recalling all those cars? So in the private company, they would make that decision. In the government, you would not have that option, or you should not have that option. And the government, they always are supposed to be looking out for our public well-being and our welfare. So let's talk about common resources. So what are common resources? Common resources are not excludable, but they are in rival in consumption. This implies that policymakers need to be concerned about how much is used. In your book, in your PowerPoint, it talks about the tragedy of commons. Let's talk about the tragedy of commons. The book defines the tragedy of commons as a parable that illustrates why common resources get used more than desirable from the standpoint of society as a whole. And an example would be, say, a small, older town that's been around for a while where sheep graze and it's common land and everybody gets to use it. Over the time, the population grows, so does the number of sheep. The sheep are using more of the land. The land is being needed from the people that are growing from it.